fixed. Okay. Answers one of my questions.
So are we in order? I'm sorry, we don't have Andrea. Are we starting? It's after
Okay,
7.
it's
We have
7:07. Yeah, it's 7:07. So let's go ahead and start the meeting. So I'm calling the meeting to order. And the first item is this discussion concerning ForgeGate and what they have as opposed to what we have in the design standards.
Could I ask a question, Al, just to orient myself?
Sure.
I did go down to the site today, but I want to make sure I'm looking at the right building because the numbering on the building is different than the number that shows up on the referral. So I think that what we're talking about is the building that faces the boulevard, and it's the unit all the way closest to the river, right? Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so there were, I guess, let's get some of the code questions out of the way, and so that we can move on to the question as far as that really is sort of bringing the whole issue to a head. So Charlotte, it sounds like the windows are in fact operable windows. They're just, not in, good condition. So, and it's difficult to get them open.
Correct.
Okay. So, and these are the windows that I would assume were installed when the development was built. We're talking about, I think 78 is when the permit was issued.
Most probably.
Are they aluminum windows?
Could I answer that?
Yeah.
Not all of them. So I think some of actually we don't know because this has passed, well, I think we're the second owner. I'm not 100% certain of that. So some of the windows, yes, I do believe are the original. One of the so there are 2 sliding glass doors. It's a duplex. And so on the bottom floor, the sliding glass door is new. And so that's not being replaced. And that is vinyl.
Okay.
You know whether it's vinyl, you might not know the answer to this. Is it vinyl clad or is it solid vinyl?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. That's sort of a major issue between the condo management's requirements for replacement and our district design guidelines, is that we allow for vinyl clad windows and vinyl, well, we don't really specify about doors because it's rare that we even look at sliding doors, but it looks like from the materials that you sent to us that they're calling it a solid vinyl window, which is a different type of product that we don't really approve anywhere.
Okay. So I guess, and this is the one question for Charlotte again. Am I correct that the bedroom windows need to be operable for second means of egress?
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are the windows your firemen are going to go into with a ladder, or your tenants are going to be expected to jump out of.
Okay.
And are the windows that Sandy and Aaron are looking at, do they meet your code requirements for egress windows?
So the code has actually changed over the years. They would meet the size of the openings would meet the code for the time that the structure was built, and since they're not altering the size of the openings, what they're proposing would be okay.
So the way it operates functions for an egress window as you need it to.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so essentially the issue is that the design standards, as Sean pointed out, call for the windows to be wood windows. They can be the windows clad with vinyl, and also, I think that, am I not correct that it also allows aluminum windows? Is that,
The standards,
yeah,
aluminum or vinyl clad in this area of the district.
okay. So whereas the documents from ForgeGate specifically call for a solid vinyl window. Now, there was a previous approval, I think in '02. So we're
Correct.
talking
That's what Jeff
That's
found today,
correct.
was 2002.
yeah, 2002.
And that the contractor, in describing that specifically, in describing the application, specifically notes the wants and needs of the ForgeGate condominium. Taking into consideration the wants and needs of the ForgeGate condominium, I have compiled the proposal, and it calls out new vinyl windows throughout.
Well, yeah, it says new vinyl windows were selected by owner.
Yep, and then up above it, there's a note there that says throughout, and then later on, it describes them as custom-made vinyl windows.
Yeah.
7,
So
8,
I guess
double-
the question that I have to the board members that we'd like to at least address is how do we feel about allowing solid vinyl windows in ForgeGate, which would be therefore an exception to what our design standards have to say.
Is that what the applicant is requesting? I didn't see the cut sheets for what they're requesting. Are they requesting vinyl clad windows or solid vinyl windows?
Well, and am I not correct that what the ForgeGate document said is solid vinyl windows?
No, I know, but what does the applicant want?
We've selected solid vinyl windows to be in compliance with ForgeGate. Yes.
Yeah, and if I may add, it doesn't matter what we want. We have to comply with the standards that ForgeGate requires.
Right. This session really is to address our discussion with the condo association, because the applicant is talking about complying with their requirements, which are in conflict with our requirements. And so, do we want to press the point? Do we want to allow solid vinyl windows in this particular case?
I think it's worth noting when you walk around ForgeGate, Sandy and Aaron, that the buildings were built after the district was formed. So at some point, a configuration of this board reviewed their design when they were initially built. None of us were there. It's worth noting when you walk through that so many of the windows have been replaced with vinyl windows, and it's not just vinyl construction. And some of them have snap-on windows, which we don't. Snap-on muntins, which we don't meet the guidelines. Some of them have even just, sort of decorative strips that look like muntins. So this unit, although it has not had its windows replaced in quite a long time, is surrounded by other replacement windows that don't meet our standards, but have met the condo standards. I don't know why that is. It could be that over time, people looked at these buildings and said, well, okay, they're in the district, but they're not old buildings. Maybe people didn't get referred to our board. That's entirely possible. We have the most recent application and approval we could find was from 2002, and it did approve the kind of windows that the condominium board is proposing. So, we're in a position that has evolved and has landed in our laps, and I see this precedent for this kind of material having been approved, and it's all over there. It's all over the area, whether it was approved or not. So those are things that I think
out
about.
that the building is in the local district, not the national district. So the
Correct.
snap and muntins actually are permittable.
Oh, you're correct. They are.
Yeah,
Snap and muntins
obviously,
and vinyl clad.
yeah, it was built in the 78, so you're not talking about, certainly it's not contributing to the historic district um, as far as building type or development.
It's of its time.
Yeah. Lloyd, you got any thoughts on it? And you're muted right now. Okay, there you go.
I do. I think the end result, the appearance of a full vinyl, is not far off from a vinyl clad. It may not be as precise. And the buildings are all vinyl to begin with vinyl siding. I don't object to them, even though it's different from the standards.
I think this raises
I
a really
mean,
interesting. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that it's not a contributing, or these are not contributing structures. It's a recent construction. We can give them some leeway there. They do have this previous approval.
But it's not for this unit. It is a different unit in the development.
Yeah, well,
Just making clear that we're not, when we say they, we don't mean Sandy and Aaron. We mean someone in the past.
well, I mean, I think that what we need to do is come up with a decision which applies to all of the
Yes.
Forge Gate. And so my feeling is that, is there any reason why we need to make them toe the line in, I think this is a very good example of where we can, we have plenty of leeway as far as the materials that we allow in the district.
I guess my only question would just be, because again, I mean, this isn't something that we could approve tonight anyway without an application. So not that we wouldn't be able to make a quick decision of it at our next meeting, but I guess my question would just be to engage the management company to just ask what is their intention behind requiring these solid vinyl windows, because if they don't care one way or the other, and we are open to them but would prefer a vinyl clad which would be in compliance, then I would just want to know what it was that led them to, because if I'm correct, Aaron and Sandy, Kathleen and I were talking about this earlier, but you are responsible for purchasing all of the windows on your own, getting them installed on your own. You're not buying them through the condo board or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Right. So they just gave you that same spec sheet that we saw, that same
Yeah, they
parameter that we saw, which just said solid vinyl, and gave
Right.
you kind of what it
They
looked like, but they don't require it to be a certain brand.
Well, not exactly. They do have an approval process before we start any sort of replacement. So, we're new, so we don't know exactly what's involved in the approval process, but it involves, our contractor's license, and
I can add.
and exactly what model windows we intend to have and things like that.
Yeah, so for example, part of the paperwork that we need to do for the management company is to send a spec sheet of the windows and doors, exactly, what they look like, the size, the munings, is that what it's called? Those things?
Muntins.
Muntins. Because what's interesting about about that condo, which you probably noticed, Kathleen, is that on the outside, what's facing, the street, they have muntings, but on the inside,
Right.
they do not.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to stay consistent. And so they need to see our spec sheet to make sure that those outside windows have them, the inside windows do not. And so they're going to look through those, that spec sheet very carefully before they give approval.
A thought that I have is that the type of, I agree with Sean that we should understand the why, and we should try to see if we can find a way to have what they're asking for and what we're requiring be closer together. We're not all that far off. But it strikes me that given how much has been replaced in that development already with approval and without approval, that it doesn't make sense to not allow this applicant to go forward with what there is already precedent for around them. So to let this application be approved and then commence a separate conversation with the management company saying, okay, here's the situation. This is how we resolved it. How can we work proactively with you going forward?
Except we don't have an application yet.
When we have an application, sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
So I guess the question to Aaron and
Sandy.
Aaron,
Andy?
Sandy. Okay, sorry about that. The question I have is that do you have a preference? Are the vinyl windows something which you would like to apply for, or are you open to other types of windows, which, as long as we're not asking for custom built wood windows with, true divided lights and so on?
Yeah, in the interest of our tenants, we would like to have a simple approval process as possible, just to get them, workable windows before it's winter, and it doesn't matter whether they open so much or not. So I would prefer to follow the standards that are set by ForgeGate, so we don't have to go through a second exception process. So the full vinyl windows.
All right. So let's do it this way. I think that we need to sort this out with, is there a contact person at ForgeGate that we should speak with?
Yeah, we can get you that information on the email thread that we've had.
Okay, if you could send that to us, because I think that what we need to do is we need to resolve this issue, and just make a decision one way or another. I think that everybody's fairly flexible about what we will insist on. We just need to, resolve this difference in what the requirements are.
Yeah, very good. And
I think the other thing too, Aaron, just again to give you the benefit of speed, because I understand that you want this to be done, you could spec for a, oh, did I stop? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, or
Yeah.
where I am, I don't know.
If you can get an application for a solid vinyl window as well as a vinyl clad window, submit both spec sheets on one application. We could potentially approve both, and then you wouldn't have to come back to us. It would just be a board.
I think that at a minimum, take a look at the approval, or rather the forms and the approval process for our board, and start that process. I think that the conversation that we're talking about having with the condo board is not going to be a long discussion. I don't see any points of contention. I think that we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I admit to not fully understanding getting approval for both, but if the consensus today is to just submit an approval for the one, for just the full vinyl, if we think that might be expedient enough, then happy to do that. If you think in the interest of just covering my bases, it's better to do both, then we can do that as well. Since yep.
I think fill out for what you want, because and as part of our process, we can make switch. We can substitute at the very last minute. It's not that big of a deal. It just let's get the process started. Do we have a referral on this, Sean? I think we do.
Yep. I
We have
think we,
referral.
yep.
So we have a referral, so we're all set.
Okay, good. And we'll get this to you very soon. When is your next meeting? I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Well, right now, I don't think we have a lot of stuff, but I think that what we can do, because today looks like it's going to be a very short meeting, we can have one in 2 weeks at the fourth Wednesday of September.
I'm around. I'm
23rd.
around and available if people are also around and available on the 16th. I mean, that this is I think will be a quick review and can move them forward. I think this seems simple, and I don't want to hold them up if they have people living in the structure and they can't get the windows open. I'd be willing to meet next Wednesday if we advertise it as a voting session.
I
I'm
cannot.
not going anywhere. Oh.
So do we have 3 of us?
Yeah, because I won't be there. I'm on vacation.
So I guess we would need to confirm that we would have Andrea to have quorum.
Well, you have to quorum with 3. It would be nice to have Andrea as sort of just in case.
We have to have Andrea because Sean has just said he's going, and as have you. So we would have
Okay.
to have Andrea.
All right. So, and besides, I think that I'd like, before we actually hear the application, I would like to have the conversation with the condo board. So, get that resolved, make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we can move forward from there.
And by that, do you mean you and the condo board? Do you mean Charlotte and the condo board? Who's actually carrying forward the conversation?
Well, I think it's me or somebody from the review board meeting with the condo representative and resolving the issue.
Can I ask a question?
And if it happens next week, then that would be a problem because I'm not around next week. So that would be either you, Kathleen, or Sean, or
I
Lauren.
can call, if you send me the information, I can reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay.
Sandy was trying to add
Yeah.
something in there, I think.
So the question is it with the condo board or is it with the management company? Because from what we understand, it's the management company that makes the, that puts together the rules and regulations on alterations. So do you want, because I could give you the contact number for Maria Gemini, who is the management company. She represents the management company.
I think that's who I'd like to speak to, because that's who issued those design guidelines to you.
Right.
Usually they'll field all the questions and then make a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, so if you can send me her phone number, then
That's correct.
Yep, we'll send that to you tonight. That's great. And we'll get that application in this week.
Okay.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. We really appreciate the job you all do, and the village is better for it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you
All right,
soon.
good night.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
if you
Bye,
wanna
Charlotte.
Bail out Charlotte.
Unless you want to hang out.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
that's it for that. We'll push ahead and resolve that issue.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Charlotte's trying to hop in, Al.
But I just wanted to say thank you, good night, and that was
Nice to
fun.
meet you.
Yeah, it's good to meet some of you I haven't
Well,
seen before.
actually-
Thank you.
We have had people in the audience who come just to watch the process work because they didn't like what was on TV. I find it fascinating. But anyways, well, thank you for joining us, because I think that at least you get an idea of the issues that we deal with and how we deal with them.
Yes, I look forward to joining you for some more meetings.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a member of the public who's asked, Teresa Lagerman is on. She's asked whether there's time for questions. I don't know. We're not really taking public comment on anything, Teresa, but you can ask your question.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, wasn't sure. I got the note that
Hi.
the meeting and we have a question for the historic district, so I figured I would just ask. So I'm at 8 Stone Street in the village, and we're gonna need to rebuild our porch. We have a
Okay.
small little porch that is sitting on, it's basically no foundation, and it's coming off. It's separating from the house, and it's just in really bad shape. So we're gonna need to, we wanna rebuild it properly. And I wanted to just get a sense of, what the process is, what we need to file before we think about doing anything.
Oh,
Are you frozen, Sean?
do you have a design? Do you have drawings? Oh, I'm frozen. Kathleen, can you please explain the process of workshop?
Yes. So this is a great time for you to come and talk with us, because when we meet with you earlier, we can sort of help you problem solve along the way and hopefully save you some time and money. If you think it would be useful for folks to do a site visit, we'd be happy to come to 8 Stone Street and take a look. You start out the process with Charlotte, who just left the meeting. She's the code enforcement officer. You apply for a building permit. She looks at what you're wanting to do and says, well, you'll need to have Historic District Review Board look at this, maybe the zoning board look at this, and then she refers you to the boards and the process starts. Workshops, however, we can do informally, like we did this evening with Aaron and Sandy, where we talk through ideas. So if you wanted to, before you make an application, sort of show us images or a masked site visit, and do sort of rough sketches of what you'd like to do, and we can take a look. Is any of the material, if is any of the material salvageable? Is it?
I think maybe some of the inside part of the roof looks like it's in decent shape. The posts and the flooring, it's all pretty rotted. And there's some spots where you can see that they tried to fill in the wood. But I think the main issue is that, I'm not sure why, but it was built, it's literally sitting, the wood is just sitting on itself. There's no foundation. So the whole thing is kind of just, falling apart.
There's a lot of that.
Is the front porch or the back porch?
It's a small front porch. It's, your classic gingerbread Victorian house. There's 2 houses next to each other that look very similar on Stone Street. And they have small, rather than the whole width of the house, it's a smaller, just around the door. But yeah, I think maybe it would be helpful, to do a site visit, and we can, just walk through what we have in mind. Yeah, I just wanted to get a sense of the process before we started,
No, of course. Do you, why don't you chat to me, or I will send you my email address.
Okay.
And we can set up a time to stop by. The one thing that I would also just point out, and you may already know this or you may not, a lot of the porches and stoops and things in the village aren't actually within the property lines of the houses. Do you know whether your stoop
I don't.
village land?
I don't really know that. I know, our stoop is receded from the sidewalk a bit.
Okay.
Have kind of a front garden that goes beyond the stoop itself.
Is it the white double house?
No. There's next to us, there is a house that I think I heard that at some point it's down and then they rebuilt it. And it's more modern.
Okay. I know where we're talking about now. Okay.
Yeah, we're across from, on the corner, our neighbor just redid his whole house. Phil, what is his last name?
Amato.
Yeah, here on the corner, they just redid
Stone.
the house.
I'm thinking rock. I got it. Now we're good.
Very confusing.
Sorry. It's not confusing at all, but I do it all the time. Sorry. Got it.
Yeah, there's 2 houses that look basically the same.
Yeah, the issue that I think Sean is raising is the fact that if it's beyond your property line, your front property line, you may have to deal with the village because they own anything that is beyond the property line.
Oh, okay.
So your neighbors further down in the brick house, I think number 4,
That one definitely.
recently had this issue where they were wanting to rebuild their stoop and needed to have a conversation.
Yeah, theirs eats into the sidewalk a little bit.
Yeah, yours
Yes.
doesn't, so
Yeah, But
that's still worth
if
checking.
anything, yeah, it's, I guess, yeah, we'll have to look at that because I'm not even
You
sure.
should be able to see it on your property survey from when you bought the house. That should show your property lines.
Okay,
Yeah,
But work out with Sean when you're available, and we can combine and noodle ideas around with you.
okay, that sounds
Yeah.
great. Well, we're right now we're always home, so.
Yeah, we're all here.
We're all here too.
Okay, all right, great. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to hold you up, but just, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me jump in like this.
Of
Nice to
course.
meet you.
Problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, the only other thing that I think we can address are minutes. According to my list, we still have July 8th, July 29th, August 12th, and August 26th. Now, August 12th, that went around, and I think that we had, everybody has seen those.
Yeah, and the last conversation we had about that, I made your edits, and you said that you would remove the watermark and send it in.
Right, and I said, but that's because I thought it had been approved.
Oh,
Yeah.
correct. That's right. That's right. We
Voted
still
on the
need to vote. Yep.
So I suggest that perhaps we can vote on those minutes tonight.
Sure.
Anybody have any objection to that?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, approved. And I guess the other ones, we're still sort of waiting for Andrea to send those out.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I wrote up a memo, which let me see if I can share it with you. We could just quickly read through it. It's to the Village Board of Trustees about increasing our fees.
And I need to report to you from last night. The board met last night.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that first?
Sure. It might save us some time. So you had made a reference to it in your monthly report, to the concept of using the current as an additional form of advertising. They thought that was a great idea. They see what we see and how much more visible and accessible the town of Phillipstown ads are. They would like us to work with Michelle and provide a bit of analysis to see if what we are charging now, we are slightly different than the other boards automatically collect an escrow and advertising comes out of the escrow. We're different because we do projects of all sizes. So we don't always take an escrow. In fact, we've only done it for the seeker reviews. So the question from the trustees is, can you check in with Michelle and see if what you are charging now for a public hearing fee provides enough money for what you currently advertise, what your current expenses are per application, and if there's any left over in that amount so that you could not have to increase the fee. So I don't know the answer to that, and Michelle wasn't in today, so we
I
need
spoke to
ask
Jeff
questions.
about it.
that again?
And Jeff said that I spoke to Jeff about the costs to advertise in the PCNR.
Yep.
He said that it is $50 total for 2 issues, and there is a $20 affidavit fee that has to be paid. So we're collecting $80 and we're spending $70. The cost to I just put up the memo. The cost for us to run an 8th page black and white with the public discount would be $48. So if we take that $10, we basically would be increasing our fee from $80 to about $120. Did anyone hear that?
I did. Yeah, we did. I'm just thinking.
I'm not used to leaving people speechless during these meetings. So,
And bearing in mind that that is on top of a $50, $75 building permit application.
and our fee, which is $40.
So this would be a hearing cost on top. So they'd already be out. What's our hearing cost currently?
The current charge for a public hearing is $80,
Mm-hmm.
80.
I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
application fee is what I meant to ask.
Oh,
35?
let me check.
I think it's 35.
Is it 35 or is it 40? Not that it really matters, but let me see.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead. Sean, why don't you send this memo out to everybody? Let everybody think about it, because and go run through the numbers as far as what we think that our fee would wind up being in order to cover the cost of advertising with.
Well, I think that's what Sean's doing right now. We're almost there, right? If it's $75 for a building permit, $40 for our application fee, and then an addition, that's $115.
Okay.
Right
But, you
now,
know, but those,
it's 80.
but I think that the building permit and our fee, I mean, those are obviously something which needs to be taken into consideration somewhat, but I think we're talking about two different things. I mean, because the public hearing fee, the types of jobs that come, that are important enough to warrant a public hearing are pretty large scale projects where the difference between an extra $48 in the overall budget of reconstructing a barn or building a brand new house, I think is negligible.
Sure, but I guess what I think about too is, and I agree that this is a good way to increase public notice, but I think we also have to think about public perception of what our fees are, and I worry about the risk of driving people away if our fees are too high. So right now it would be $115 to just get in the door, and then $80 for a public hearing. And if we were to go in this direction, there's 10 back. It'd be, what did you say, 120 something, 125 for a public hearing fee, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, right now we charge 80. This is going to be an extra 48, so that's 100 and or
30.
130. Say
the
it's 130.
Yeah, the 115 that you're talking about, is that the fee for the?
That's the building permit application and our submission fee.
Our submission fee is $30.
Isn't the permit fee based on the cost of the job?
Not anymore. It's a set
It's just
fee.
a flat fee?
hmm
Wow.
Really?
That was a super complicated.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very typical that it'd be based on the cost of the project.
Well, it wasn't. It was based not necessarily on the cost of the project, but the size of the project.
Well, I think it was based on the cost. It was a certain percentage of the construction cost. But anyway,
It's based on the
not anymore, so that there's no point in talking about it. But I think that the reason I want to send this out is because I do want to get Andrea's input on this, and so I would like to at least send it out to her before we make a decision. It sounds like we're going to have another meeting on the 4th Wednesday.
23rd.
So we're going to have another meeting on the 23rd.
So anyway, because I wrote this, I hadn't heard back from Jeff when I wrote this, so I didn't know exactly where our money was going. So I was just throwing it up there for people to look at now. But I'll circulate it around, and I will maybe I can get him to give me a little bit more of a specific answer, or I'll write to Michelle.
Yeah, and
Michelle, not current Michelle.
but to the point that Kathleen raised, it is a very good point. One of the things that historically has been an issue is that people are very quick to do, do something, and then if they get in trouble, beg forgiveness. And I think that one of the reasons why we were able to at least get people to submit to our board is the fact that, in comparison to the other boards, we were fairly cheap. And so it really didn't cost them very much. But, and so I think that one of the considerations that we have to bear in mind in deciding on this is whether or not, if we raise the fee, is it going to deter anybody?
So Al, I'm looking at the master fee schedule on the village website. There is an application fee, and then the permitting fees are based on elements of the project, square footage, type of project, et cetera. But the application fee.
Yeah, and theoretically, anything that we see should go through the building inspector, which means that they would have had to file something. They would have had to file an application. So,
And just the, I'm looking to see if the other boards do not have a public hearing fee, but they do collect escrow. So that's the difference.
Well, they don't have to if you have.
What if we were to, based on the number of applications we get every year, and based on the number of applications that go to public hearing, an alternative solution could be that we simply raise our application fee across the board and don't charge for public hearings. And I imagine the mathematics will all work out, because we don't pay, our fees don't pay for any of the things that we use. I mean, our fees don't directly pay for Michael, and they don't directly pay for John first. Those are things that we budget for and kind of guess how much time we're going to need. But if we were to increase our application fee from $30 to $50 over the course of the year, it would certainly cover $120 worth of advertising for the handful of public hearings we have.
I don't think I would do that, because I think that we do get tons and tons of small projects, and it seems that in my mind, it seems less fair to have the costs of public hearings for a small number of projects borne by a series of small projects who aren't asking for the same level of staff support and board work, and aren't needing advertising in the same way. I just think it shifts the burden to folks who aren't getting the service.
Well, they're getting the service of living in a beautiful village.
All too true.
I kind of like that idea that
Here
just floated. I think we can probably run some numbers and see, how much of an increase are we talking about? Are we going from 30 to 35, or 35 to 40? And if you average that out over the year for all of the applications we get, it may not be that much of an increase to the base fee, and it'll keep everything a lot simpler.
Well, that's just came to mind is that right now, Jeff, then among the steps that have to happen between our first discussion and the setting of a date for a public hearing is Jeff needs to collect another check, or whatever way people pay, and that would be one fewer step in that second round process. I think numbers would be convincing to me in that scenario if it were a $5 increase versus a $30 increase, whatever it might be. But remember, we have to go back further in time, because obviously this year nothing is normal. We have to go back to a different 12-month period.
Yeah. Well, I think we can use last year as as the test case, and see how much of a difference in the fee.
Did our budget?
Yeah.
When did you do our budget last time, Kathleen?
No, it's on a January. We turned it in January.
Yeah, I mean, typically February is when, you know, I think March is when they adopt the budget for the village. Okay, so
Kathleen, would you be able to look through and see how, if, when we submitted our 2020 budget with our 2019 numbers, would that have the number of applications?
We used to do it that way. We used to put in 2 columns that showed income and expense. And this past year, Michelle asked us just to ask for what we needed and not to try to reconstruct what we brought in. But that is something that she tracks separately so we could ask for from her. I can pull it from what we built the year before. If we want last year, we need to ask Michelle for the numbers of the amount of fees.
Right. Maybe it ends up being a combination of the two. I mean, maybe we decide that we're going to increase our
base fee.
and increase our application fee from $30 to $35. And then hopefully for every $25 that we lose on a public hearing, it will be made up for in a slight increase of other applications. I mean, again, I think I would be really surprised if somebody is thinking so many degrees ahead that they're going to not submit an application to us for a project of the size that would warrant a public hearing without, I mean, you can't build a house without coming through us. I mean, there's the things that we require for a public hearing are big projects.
And if you come before the planning board and you are asking for a subdivision, that is a separate fee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think let's think about it, and you know, and when we have our next meeting, we can discuss it and make a recommendation at that point, because I think there are pros and cons. I think that the fees that we're asking for are not that large.
Yeah.
That it would deter anybody, but I think that a lot of it goes to perception, and if we're going from $30 to $50, I think, you know, people will kind of step back and say, what, even though it's just 20 more bucks. So I think that, you know, let's think about it before we make a decision on this. The one last thing, Lloyd,
What?
how are we doing on the standards, the revised standards?
I finally made the revisions. I was going to send them to you before the meeting, but I was working on them after dinner, up to the meeting. I thought I would, if you want, I could quickly describe to you what I did.
Great.
Yeah, I could do that. If I can share my screen, I can do that easily. And I put a couple files on the drive. Actually,
Yeah, let me give you permission. Oh, great.
I only have one file on the drive, but I'll put more because I know, Sean, you wanted to be able to read them since you don't have Word and you needed some sort of
Thanks.
different files, right? Anyway, we can go through that. Give me 1 second. Let me copy that here. And copy those a couple more here before I share. Okay. So it's a good thing I took pretty decent notes since a lot of time elapsed. Sorry again for that. We had done some reorganization that we talked about moving sections around. Where did it go? Sorry, bear with me. I've never shared a screen, or not often in Zoom. So I moved those sections around like we talked about. You probably don't remember very well. Sorry, I need to find you another screen here. There's a file in here called edits no markup, and I made a PDF. Oh no, I can make a PDF of that for you also, Sean, if that helps. That you'll be able to look at to see where things were, since it's been some time.
Yeah, that would be great.
There's also a file that has just edits, ends with the word edits, where I've accepted all the markups into it. This was a copy of the no edits or no markup. Oh wait, no, I'm talking out of turn here, sorry. I'm confused. So no markups is the one where I have accepted all the changes that I made based on our discussions at the last meeting about this in June. The PDF in this folder, Sean, is
Changes that you made?
okay, let's just look at it. So these are changes I made, but you can track, you can see and hear.
Right.
Oh. Now where did it go? So you can see in this file, you can see what those changes were. They're highlighted with the underlining and the colors and all that, you know, and the strike through and all that stuff. Okay. And I closed my window.
All right, I think it's something that we have a little bit of a breathing space because we're not exactly swamped with a lot of applications.
Yeah.
So I think let's see if we can push ahead with.
Yeah, just bear with me a second and let me finish describing what I did so it's easier for you guys to make it through it on your own as you look at it.
I want to know what was on your 2019 Christmas list.
Yeah.
Not everybody, unfortunately, and I never get all the way through it. You don't want to know what's in my brother's estate folder. That's fun stuff. Oh, this thing goes so slow. Why won't this open? It's all the video running at the same time. It's just the folder I just had open. Oh my God.
There it goes.
No, I went back.
What, Lloyd? Why don't you share the Google folder with us? And
Yeah,
then,
I did. So I closed
okay.
it for now. I'll show you in Word what I really wanted to talk about. So in the Google folder, there'll be one that says no markups. And then Sean, I know you wanted to look back, and other people may want to also. You can look back at the one that ends with the word edits, and I'll put PDFs of both so that you can look at the completed version or the markup version. So after moving everything around, I went through this file. You're still seeing it, right?
Yep.
So I've highlighted in yellow things that are missing still. I think I got them all, but you know, the map. It's something where it says draft, use more contemporary photo. Some things that still need to be edited. Okay. I've also gone through here and I've used the headings feature to make headings at different levels. So you can actually use this navigation bar on the side if you
Awesome.
get it up, and you can jump around the document and you can see here the table of contents effectively.
Right on. That's great.
It helps me because it was darn confusing. I was going flipping back and
It was
forth,
just
up
so
and
slow
down,
to
up and
go through, yeah.
down. My head was just bouncing around. So, and this table of contents that's in here now is created from those headings.
Excellent.
Now, the one that's in red below it, you'll see in a second, is I think it's also correct, but it's and this doesn't have to, you know, in the end, this doesn't have to be as
Right.
as
An
detailed with,
organizational strategy.
we don't have to have it all, but
Yeah.
for now it's there. The one in red is the manual version, which I think is correct, and I didn't want to lose it because this is probably about as complex as we want the table of contents to be. Like, I don't think there were, you know, there were one of these sections had terms, you know, and they're like 30 or 50 terms or whatever. That it's not, we don't need that in our final document. Here they are. So anyway, so you can jump around here using these headings. I find that very useful. You can collapse things. And here's the definitions. Oh, no, I'm sorry, but it helps you navigate around pretty easily. So, and to see what all of these changes that we made were. So I guess I put back Cold Springs architectural integrity. We talked about that. I honestly can't remember without looking back what all the different changes were, except that a lot of stuff was moved to, as we talked about, moved to the end in these resource guidelines. Oh, actually this one with all, so we call them resource guideline. I guess I suggested that because it's less intimidating and less formal.
Instead of appendix? Yeah.
Instead of appendix, so people don't think it's like an afterthought they shouldn't look at. Appendix to me, sometimes I ignore them because even though they have important information, it just kind of implies.
Sounds like an afterthought. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually a lot of good stuff, though, that we.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know why this title isn't showing. Anyway, I'll work on that. So yeah, that's basically it.
So what we're thinking about, what I think we are thinking about now is how comfortable and usable we feel the relocation is, based on our last conversation. Sort of getting into that a little bit and seeing how it feels and reads. Do we want to ask Carolyn to look at it at this stage, or do we want to do some work before we, or maybe I don't even know if we want to do that at this stage?
I think, aren't we kind of beyond her participation allowance? The last time we reached out to her, she kind of implied that
it was done. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that she's. Yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, you're right. But that's our job right now. Yes, is looking at Lloyd's reorganization and seeing how it feels.
Yeah, I think that's the next step, and then we can go from there. Even if we don't have every last one of these yellow things filled out, we can give it to Kirsten, and she could start laying it out.
Yeah.
And we can fill in some blanks here and there.
I would note that Jillian, her name is no longer Thorpe. It is It'll
Yes.
come to me eventually. The director of the library has been
Okay.
posting some really amazing Main Street photos that I have never seen before.
Oh, I've been seeing those too.
Yeah, and they've been like today's photograph had it was a really unusual directly from where the firehouse is now to the corner building and the red building. Early images of those buildings. There may be stuff in the library's collection that is more accessible than what's in the History Museum
What is she
collection.
posting them on?
Say that again?
Facebook.
What is she posting them on?
On the library's Facebook page. And she
Oh.
puts it up like a little quiz. Who knows what building this is?
Huh.
And somebody's been posting a lot lately, postcards and different images and things on locals. So,
Oh, I try not to go to that page for my own sanity.
yeah.
But okay.
But there's been some interesting stuff lately. I understand that sentiment.
Mike Bowman also has a bunch of photographs.
Yes, somebody told me that the History Museum has a lot more than we are, and most people are aware of.
I'm only too sure that that's correct. It's a matter of accessing it. So at any rate, that's something that we're going to have to look at soon is pictures.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is that I don't think that they especially have the interest of the village at heart. This is their little playground, and it's mostly Garrison residents.
Well,
So,
the new director is actually. I worked with her when she did the kids the junior high history project last year, and she's actually she's been the most adept I have seen at actually using the archive and accessing things. My new start might be worth having a conversation with her. I hope springs eternal.
Okay, so am I correct that the way that we're moving this forward is now everybody takes a look at what Lloyd has in his drive, and we all have access to that. Am I correct, Lloyd?
Yeah, I put it onto can you look, Sean, and tell me? I think I'm putting it into the same folder. Maybe not. Maybe I'm doing my own thing here and it's not coming through to you, but
I don't see it. I think it doesn't look like it. So what you would need to do is,
share.
if you just scroll over, it should be like the last thing on that row. There's a little drop down.
No.
No, if you go up, see where it says My Drive, and then it says CSHRDB on the horizontal bar, not on the vertical bar on the side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you just scroll over there, wherever the last folder is, there's a little down. Yeah. So then where it says Design Standards, in the next one more over to the right, if you click on that downward arrow, it should give you the share options, and then you can just include all of us.
Okay.
It will be its own thing. It won't be in our meeting file tree, unless you just want to share it with me, and then I can drop it in there, and then everyone can get it. Whatever's easier.
Okay.
We'll figure that out then. So I'll share that with you guys, and we could, if you got questions about how we move stuff around, I don't have it at like a list in my head of how stuff was moved around because there were many changes, and
Well, okay, and the
so
thing
we can
is,
talk about it. If you don't remember, I can look back at the
all right, the
unedited version, and
thing is that you're going to have these files in there which have the text as you have made them so far. One of the things that we, as not you, when we have any suggestions, you could, what you'd have to do is make another copy of the file and leave it in there, and then Lloyd, you can look at the proposed changes. Am I correct that all the Word documents, we can still do track changes in that? Is that correct?
In Google
Because
Drive, I don't know. I'll just make your suggestions, and then I'll have a copy over here.
Well, the thing is that you should have a copy that is the master copy. And all I'm
Yeah.
saying is that for people, if Sean, myself, Andrea, or Kathleen have suggested changes, what is the best way of getting them to you? And what I'm proposing is that you make a change using track changes and leave it in there, but under a different name so that you can understand that it is a proposed change from somebody.
Why don't I make another file
Well,
with the
Al,
title that says 4 changes, and then I'll make it so that the changes are tracked. Everybody can put their changes in that same tracked file.
but I think if we want to avoid having too many versions of it, based on the work that Lloyd's done, really working out the contents and the headings and the subheadings, wouldn't it be possible to just address the line or the paragraph in an email or in a text document and just send it to Lloyd? I mean, just so that we're not having copies and copies and copies. I would think that at this point, I would hope that at this point, our suggested changes would be kind of minimal to, maybe a handful of typos or some clarifications, but not the kind of
Drastic.
big structural changes that would need to really be tracked that way. I mean, whenever I send Andrea notes on the minutes, I just tell her, what
fine.
section it is, what line it is, and what word I want changed, and that seems
Or you can do a screenshot and send a screenshot.
Yeah, I think that would loads and loads of copies and original copies and everything else. Something inevitably is going to get lost, and it's just going to be
Yeah, I agree.
frustrating.
I don't mind
Right.
that. I personally prefer that sort of more manual approach. I guess I'm old that way, where you send a comment and I'll make it in the master.
Okay, so that's what you feel comfortable with, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, then that's how we do it.
So,
So as far as planning for the month is concerned, we're meeting on the 20th. I mean, we have our standing workshop on the 23rd. It sounds like we're probably going to be seeing 8 Stone Street. Can we commit to, I know I'm going to be away for a week and Al's going to be away for a week, but can we commit to reading through these drafts?
lost you.
Lost you.
Gone? Still gone? Nothing?
No, you're back.
Right, now you're back.
Okay.
Can we commit to reading through Lloyd's drafts and sending our notes to him by the 23rd?
I think that's too ambitious. I think let's do it in the regular meeting for October.
I would commit to doing that. I so want to get this done. I've been sitting in on these trustee meetings every week, and they take at least half an hour at the end of every meeting. Now, mind you, their meetings often run quicker than ours do because they're not solving design questions, right? It's a different type of meeting. But they've been meeting at the end of every session, every Tuesday, to do a small chunk of the code update. And I feel like it is giving them structure and drive to get done. I don't know what people's Wednesdays are like, but I'm willing to say Wednesday night is design standards night to get it done. I mean, I know you two are away next week, but I'd work for have a half an hour discussion on the 23rd and then commit to being on the 30th and go every Wednesday after that. Does that make people want to puke?
No, I mean, that would work.
I just want to be done.
That would
How do you feel about it,
work
Lloyd?
for me.
It's fine with me as long as it's not whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Like an hour. If we said we'll take an hour every Wednesday and we'd be efficient with our time and focused on a goal for each of those hours.
Yeah, an hour, hour and a half. The 3 hour,
Okay.
I guess
90 minutes,
as long
90
as
minutes
we've
max.
gone is makes for a really long day. For
And
me.
wherever we get in that 90 minutes is where we stop.
All right. Well, and how about if we lay out a plan, or at least, Lloyd, why don't you break it down into chunks that you think we can cover in an hour? And, because the rest of us are going to be reading this thing. So that way, at least we'll have a plan as far as, what we're looking to cover in, the coming meeting. But I
Sounds good,
agree.
yeah.
It sounds like let's commit to an hour every Wednesday.
Cool.
That's fine. Yeah. Do we?
Should we then, if we're going to be committing to doing an hour every Wednesday,
90 minutes.
What?
90 minutes.
Okay, but the weeks that we actually have regular business meetings, shall we have those meetings begin at 8 and we'll meet from 7 to 8 to do design reviews and then invite our guests at 8 p.m. like we used to?
I actually think people are digging starting at 7. The public. I think it's easier for the public.
People are what?
Digging it starting at
Liking
7
it.
rather than 8.
Well, potentially, but I'm also digging these design standards getting done by the
Yeah.
time.
Well,
we're
could
at
people
the end of
do
the year.
6:30 to 7:30? And then 7:30 we start our meeting, so we're not starting as late?
Fine.
I mean,
it's
that's fine
okay.
with me. I'm very available, but
That's okay.
I know,
don't
I
think-
want to stab myself in the eye just thinking about it, but I'd rather have it be a truncated period of pain.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that what we're doing is now reviewing format and sort of the logic of the layout, because the actual graphics and the format and of the appearance is all going to be done by Kirsten. Is
Right.
that-
right, and that's not going to happen in 2 days,
Well,
so I think we
yeah.
need to
I mean, the thing is that we have spent a number of hours going over the content. So it's like you said, Sean, there really shouldn't be a hell of a lot of change in the content. And I think that the only thing that we need to look at is to see how it reads and how it flows. So I think that we're going to go through this a lot more quickly than we anticipate at this particular point, the more I think about it.
Hope springs eternal.
All right,
This
so
is
then
great.
we'll meet on the 23rd.
First thing before the 23rd, yeah, I would read through it and make sure it flows, and then I will we'll go from there, and then I'll organize if there are sections that need to be worked on, added to.
Maybe we should aim to get stuff to you by the 20th, which is the Sunday, so that you have some time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it helpful to have it before the 23rd? Or do we want to say by the 23rd and we come together in discussion?
Uh,
Are you feeling browbeaten?
no, not at all. Just let's say by the 23rd. If you have something sooner,
Ooh,
send sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaving on Tuesday, so I'm going to have only a couple of days and coming back on the 21st, but I will do as much as I can between now and the 23rd.
okie doke.
Yeah, and I can organize whatever comments I get. We can discuss them, and then we can add to them. Does that sound good?
I think that we shoot for the 23rd and see what we got.
I'm willing to contact Jillian to ask about the photos that she's pulling forward.
That would be great.
Good.
Well, okay. I mean, my only concern is that right now, I think the standard should be the focus. And I think that, once we get the text over to Kirsten, then I think maybe at that point we reach out to Jillian to see what she has that we can use.
It's just a quick email. It doesn't matter either way to me.
Also, I mean, the other thing to keep in mind too is that we do have all of the assets from the original design guidelines too.
Yeah.
So as far as the historic images are concerned, I mean, there are things that we've all seen 1,000 times, but doesn't mean
Right.
issue with Janet Ross that I have not committed to yet. You know, there's a whole mix of things that we've got. So
Cool.
great. So then it looks like our agenda for the 23rd is going to be a workshop with 8 Stone Street, potentially the fence on Morris, and resolving the window issues with Aaron and Sandy. And hopefully Andrea has not fallen into a well, and we will be able to finish these minutes.
What, are you?
Who's going to do the minutes for today?
Who's going to what? Oh, that's right. We don't have a secretary tonight. Oh, jerk. I'll do it. Lloyd did the standards.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wrote the memo and did the
did.
agenda and did the
You
report.
did. I am so happy to write your
And I
name.
have terrible handwriting, so I can't do the minutes. All right, I'll
That's a
call
good
this
one.
woman.
Have to
I'll call this
remember that
woman
one.
at Forge Gate tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 What time is it?
Right. 23rd.
23.
Everybody's got their little tasks.
8:23.
8:23.
No, 9:23.
8:23 right now is the adjourning time.
8:23.
Oh, I thought,
Isn't that shocking? All right, I'm turning off the
No.
recording.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Nice trip out.